We're going to talk about 7 areas that you can focus on to make your kitchen look old. But we want to make sure that it's still usable and functional. We want all the modern conveniences. We still want to have that historic vintage feel. Okay, the 7 areas that we're going to focus on are your cabinets, your sink, lighting, your placement and style of your appliances, your wall treatments, finishes, and the floor. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our cabinets. Look how I've got inset cabinet doors, but the drawer fronts are flat overlay. This is a shaker style. It's quite simple. I've noticed in a lot of my research, this is the #1 thing that I see in an early 20th century kitchen cabinet style. We also have exposed hinges, and we've got twist lock hardware. Okay, upper cabinets, you don't necessarily have to have them, but if you do, make sure they go tall. You want them tall, like, it doesn't have to be to the ceiling, but it helps if you can. Now, make sure they have glass. You definitely want glass fronts in them. Remember, we're still doing our exposed hinges and our twist lock hardware. You're gonna wanna have some kind of support underneath your upper cabinets, even if it isn't providing any support at all, because it adds an authentic look to it, because that would have been there, so I added it. It looks pretty, and it looks like it is visually supporting it. Now, it doesn't have to be a bracket. It can be a post. You can extend this wall all the way and rest on the countertop if you want. And this isn't just for your cabinets. If you have shelves, nobody had these modern floating shelves. You can put them in, but you have to have some sort of bracket so visually it looks like it's supported. I'd say the #1 thing is, if you can, no toe kicks in your cabinets. So if you think about modern kitchen cabinets, right at the bottom, there's going to be this cutout. It's like 3.5 inches by about the same down, and it's literally for you to walk up next to it, a place for your toes to go up under. In the way that this fridge is designed with its own sort of toe kick. All of your modern cabinets are made with that. But that is the #1 giveaway when you're seeing a kitchen that's been remodeled. If it's got a toe kick, it just looks new. Another thing to consider is your sink. If you can at all get one, get a cast iron sink with a drain board. Any kind of drain board is awesome. Sometimes they're one-side drain boards, sometimes there's 1 bowl or 2 bowls or 2-sided. Anything is awesome and screams old house, vintage, authentic. Now, they even make different styles that are just, they'll have a little lip that sits on the countertop. That's fine too. If you can't get one, what can you do? Try to get a wall mount faucet. All right, wall mount faucet, what does that mean? So if you think of most of your modern kitchen sink faucets, they're gonna come out of like here or maybe here. But what we can do is you get a wall mount, and if your sink doesn't have this back riser, then you can have a wall mount faucet that comes out of your wall, like maybe your backsplash. All right, now let's talk about lighting. The #1 rule is absolutely no can lights. The only things that you can put in the ceiling are one center pendant fixture like a chandelier. You can also add on the side, you can add pendant lights over your sink if you want to, but don't get too many. But you're thinking, wait, that's not enough light for my kitchen. No, it's not. So what you do is you add sconces, and you can have as many as you want. I have 7 in this room. We paired sconces on the side of each window and put one above every doorway. The one place you definitely want to put sconces is right by your sink. We always need light there, and if you're not gonna have a pendant, absolutely put sconces. But we're not done. The type of fixture is important. We want to pick something that is antique. You can get them cheap, you can rewire them. And also, choose glass shades. It makes such a difference. Even my sconces are old porcelain ceramic sconces. And notice this, they aren't that blue daylight bulb. You want the warm light bulbs with the kelvins that are in the warm range. That mimics your old incandescent bulbs. All right, now we're talking about placement and style of appliances. So here I went with a big range and a vent hood over top. What I did not do was that microwave over the stove where it sort of vents out the microwave as well. No, we want to hide that microwave because it wasn't even invented until like the 1970s. Now this is a very big stove, a very big vent hood. It fits the space. But what you gotta think about is the focus of kitchens was that cooking, and we were still downsizing in this area from where you had a giant walk-in chimney fireplace in your kitchen. So here is a mid-range in between super early kitchens and modern stove microwave combos. Here the microwave is in the lower cabinets, and I put it towards the back of the room, sort of out of the way, so when you're coming in any of the doorways, it's not the first thing you see. Now for the dishwasher. Where is it? I hid it. There's actually two of them. I custom made this cabinet to house two drawer-style dishwashers. Most dishwasher companies allow you to order a model that is panel ready. What that means is that they send you the appliance, but there's no pretty front on it. It just kind of looks like the inside of some robot. And what you do is you have a cabinet door made that matches the rest of yours, and it's attached so it's a more built-in custom look. And bonus for me, you don't see it. That's one more appliance that we have here, but it's hidden. Now the fridge. So originally what would have been in an older house, and it probably would have been out in the hall or back porch somewhere, is an ice box. I ain't trying to go through all that. The next modern step up would have been a refrigerator which had a panel front door that swings like this. Now, if you'd rather have a refrigerator that looks like an ice box, I will link some plans in the description below that you can modify your modern fridge. Now we're on to wall treatments. Your kitchens and your bathrooms were places where things needed to be cleaned, things needed to be sanitary. This early 20th century time period, there was a big shift in focus on germs, hygiene, keeping clean, all that kind of stuff. What they did is they didn't extend their plaster walls all the way down. They added this beadboard trim. It was wood. They would have shellacked it, stained it, something that would be a lot easier to clean. Now, this is a modest house. It would have had beadboard. The higher end, expensive ones would have had tile. That's what you really want. But we don't have the budget for that, so we went back with what would have been here, which is a beadboard. Now, I could have stained it, but I also, didn't feel like spending $1 million on it. I just got regular old beadboard panel walls, and I painted them. And I went with dark because they would have been stained some sort of dark color, so it helps mimic that vibe. On to finishes. What do I mean by that? Let's start with, when you go get your paint colors, they're gonna ask you what sheen do you want. In old houses, we don't want anything shiny. What you wanna choose is satin. So for my cabinet paint color, this is a satin sheen that I chose. I'm not talking about hardware, because metal is shiny, right? They don't quite match, but nothing really matches. It's okay. This finish is one of my favorites. It looks all weird, like somebody didn't get it all off. No, it's supposed to look like that. It's supposed to mimic a Japan finish, which was very, very expensive. Back 100 years ago, they called this like antique bronze or something like that. But when you see this with these stripes in there, that is how it's supposed to look. Another thing with finishes is your outlets and your switches for your lights. You want to go dark. They didn't have that plain white plasticky mess that we have now. You go dark because that mimics the original Bakelite finish that they used, and you can use a brass faceplate. Now, if you can't find brass faceplates because they're too expensive or you just don't like them, then you can go all black. If you're wondering about window treatments, you can never go wrong with lace curtains. Our last area to focus on is the floors, and floors are a really big deal. A lot of people say, hey, it's easy, you just sand them down to the original wood and go from there. And yeah, that is ideal. But in my case, I had a lot of damage in the kitchen floor. There had been tremendous amounts of water damage. And when I had to patch in the floors, I couldn't make it match. I couldn't make the stains match up. There was big patches. It was just a nightmare. And I was so traumatized by the water damage, I just wanted to put something down that would help protect the floors a little longer. So as much as it hurts my soul to put down this floating floor, that's what I did. And the original floors are still underneath there in case somebody wants to actually do the work and refinish them years from now. So as with any type of flooring you put down, you gotta resolve how they meet up, and then there's transitions. So here's what I did. In here is my butler's pantry. These are the original wood floors. They actually have some paint on them. This is the original transition between these two floors. Up under here, it looks just like that. They're the same level. But we added and built up a floor here. So it was higher, we had to add a new transition, and this is the one I added. It was a piece of oak, and we stained it to match and cut it out here. What normally happens is your wood floor is put down, and then your trim molding and casing rests right on top of it. This side of the room, we built it up, it's taller, and normally what they want to do is cut your moldings and slide this floating floor up underneath it. I said no, we are not cutting original material. We are keeping what's old and altering what's new. So what I did is, we laid the floor down and we butted it up close to here, but we still have a gap we have to cover. So I added this new threshold and we cut it around to go around my casing. Why did I do that? Because in case anybody wants to come back years from now and actually restore the original floor underneath here, they can without their casings having been destroyed and cut. And honestly, I think it looks pretty good. So that was it. Those are the things that I've done to make my kitchen look like a truly recreated historic kitchen from the turn of the century. What'd you think? Got any questions? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe.